You are
Okay.
the man of the moment in American comics. Let's say after Absolute Batman, there's you. How does it feel? Even Rob Liefeld said that you should organize all Marvel comics. So how does it feel?
Uh, it feels early, early to say those things, but very lovely. It means a lot, of course. But I just really love doing this work, and for me, all I see is my flaws, and so what I love about this work is that there's always another chance to do better, and so it's really about every project and every issue trying to get better and better and better. And I think, I. Mr. Liefeld said very nice things. He compared me to Alan Moore. I very strongly disagree. I'm very flattered, but I'm trying to be at that level. I'm going to keep working, and that's the most important thing is to keep working to get better and try new things. Yeah.
Okay. So I discovered your work with 20th Century Man, which I loved very much. I read an interview with the Comic Journal and said that your initial idea was with the idea to utilize Iron Man in another way.
Yeah.
Why Iron Man was the right choice to use in a Soviet context in the 1980s and not another Captain America or Captain Russia?
Yeah. Well, I think for me, it was really the interesting thing for me was to explore kind of the difference between Soviet ideas, like communist ideas, and American ideas, capitalist ideas, and then also the perspective of the Afghan people. And so I wanted to play with that. I felt the Iron Man archetype fit nicely with the Soviet kind of industrial vibe. It was much more, the man as a machine, whereas the Captain America singular amazing person didn't fit so well with the Soviet ideology. We also had a Superman that was Soviet that we used that was more like Captain Planet or Captain Marvel, where it was multiple people became one person, and that also felt like it was a obvious manifestation of kind of Soviet ideology.
Okay, so in 20th Century Man, you talked about American and Soviet imperialism. In Ultimates, you talk about capitalism. In Assorted Crisis Event, you talk about like kind of everyday problem that affect every one of us. And in each work, you talk about these themes explicitly. On internet, they would say the subtext is for cowards. So, how much is important for you to talk about this political message in your work?
Yeah, I mean, it's very important for me because I think all artwork is political. All artwork, whether it even artwork that says it's apolitical, is in fact political. That's a political choice that you're making. We live in insane times. I think some might say terrible times, and so I don't. The work of an artist or with my project is to try to represent something about what it's like to live life as I live it today. And you can't do that if you don't talk about capitalism or the degradations of capitalism, in my opinion. You cannot talk about life as we experience it unless you talk about the political and the social and all of these issues that we're dealing with every day. Assorted Crisis Events was born out of the pandemic. For me, it's a pandemic comic book. After even before the pandemic, it was an issue, but it felt like there was always one new crisis after another we were dealing with. As soon as one was over, a new one began, right? And they were all coming on top of each other. And so obviously it's a metaphor, but the time is breaking down as a metaphor, but it's what it feels like to live right now in the 2020s, I think, in the post-pandemic world. And that's what a lot of people tell me, and that's what I'm going for. I'm trying to draw from life. And so life is political.
Okay. Ultimates, when we read Ultimates, we cannot think about another work of these times, which is Endor. Why? Because both are political work, but done inside Disney, inside the multinational, the maximum example of capitalism in culture production.
Yeah.
Is it possible to do a radical work inside a corporation, or in this sense, doing inside the corporation make it propaganda for the other side?
It's a great question, and it's something that we all have to wrestle with, all of us, each of us, both creators and readers, whether anything can be truly subversive if it's, you know, through a corporation. I think that's a fair critique or a fair question to ask. But what I don't want to do is self-censor and say, well, because it's a Disney thing, we're not going to talk about politics. You know, we're not going to try to say anything that might be subversive in the least. Disney has a very powerful mechanism or Marvel is a very powerful way of getting your message across. And though I don't think it's, you know, the Ultimates won't be the most radical thing you've ever read, it's not, maybe it could be the beginning of your journey. And I think, you know, the logical endpoint of saying, well, you can't do anything radical in Disney is that you don't do anything that has even a little bit of subversive, you know, content. And I wouldn't want to do that. I think you can use these metaphors, these really powerful metaphors, these characters, these archetypes that mean a lot to people in these new ways, and you can introduce them to new ideas. And if they're interested, they can continue with those. And not everyone's going to be. Some people are just going to read it and they're going to move on, and that's okay. But some people are going to read it and maybe they'll read some of the things that inspired it. You know, some of the more radical texts that we reference from more radical authors. Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about more your process and creation of comics.
Okay.
How detailed are your scripts for your drawers, artists, and do they change with each project?
They do, and they change even within each project depending on the scene, but it certainly depends on who I'm writing for. So, you know, Stepan, who did 20th Century Man and now does Bleeding Hearts, and it did an issue of Ultimates. He loves very detailed scripts. He loves a lot of information. He loves a lot of text. So I write a lot for him most of the time. But then sometimes I'll just say one sentence for 3 pages, and he'll draw that we trust each other, and everyone is always changing. So I write pretty detailed scripts. Usually I propose some kind of formal idea. Let's try to do it in this way, you know, 4 panels per page or whatever, or always the same, or, you know, mirroring pages or whatever weird formal thing I want to do. And then it's their job to make it work, and sometimes change it radically. And sometimes the artist, you know, every artist is different. Stepan changes a lot of what I write, whereas Eric, who does Assorted Crisis Events, doesn't change almost, or he's very much more strict. He makes a lot of choices himself, but he takes the text a little bit more seriously, my script. But all of it is good, and you get different outcomes with each of them, a different kind of a magic. You know, Stepan is poetry, and Eric is more science, and Javi is like in between, but just a total genius, encyclopedia of what's possible in comics. And so the process for me is really more about learning from them than anything.
I wanted to ask about Javi because we are big fans of Javier, his work since the beginning, also as a colorist, and now
yes,
with Absolute Martian Manhunter, he became like a superstar.
Superstar, yeah. And before that was Zatanna already. He was already amazing.
How is working with him? How much is it changing your script, your pages? How much is your idea, his idea?
So first of all, he's a genius, and he has been working in comics for so long. He knows everything about comics. I'm just constantly learning from him, constantly absorbing his little tidbits of wisdom that he throws off as if it's nothing. But for me, it's like, and so it's amazing working with him. He's filled with ideas. You know, we both contribute a lot of ideas, but you know, I'll contribute an idea and then he'll make it times 100, or he's very careful about, you know, he knows what I want to do. He knows thematically what I'm trying to do. And so he'll say, we need to do it this way. So in terms of layouts, it's him. I mean, I have some ideas here and there. The thought smoke was my idea, but the way that he does it is him, you know? And so he is such an important part of Martian Manhunter. He's such an incredible partner. I'm so lucky to be working with him, and I hope we will work together forever. Yeah.
Absolute Martian Manhunter is maybe the most American of your comics in setting. with the FBI, with the hotness of like a Los Angeles summer. How does it feel to talk about America with your background? Your parents are from all over the world, from Turkey and Philippines. You grew up in the Midwest. So how does it feel to talk about the U.S.?
Yeah, I feel like I have a really unique perspective because of that. Because I grew up in the United States, I feel in many ways American, but because my parents were from other countries and I was born in another country as well, there's a certain amount of remove, and I got to see very early on. We would go back to Turkey and the Philippines every summer, and so I got to see. There's these different ways of seeing the world and living in the world, and so even something like Martian Manhunter, it's that town, Middleton, is designed to be like super diverse, a lot of immigrants. It's a town of immigrants, and of course an alien is the ultimate immigrant, right? So yes, I think it's given me a unique perspective that allows me to talk about both from inside and outside, which the Martian Manhunter, the Martian Vision, is you can see inside and outside at the same time. So
okay, Assorted Crisis Events is a serial series, but as a continuity, but also as a theme of the month. Like each month, you talk about a theme. Ultimates is a very unique way of narrating comic because each issue has 1 month of time passing. So you work in seriality, but you change it, you shape it. Is it to twist to have new sensation when working with a serial comic, or you think it permits you more liberty, more freedom? It's
both of those. It's to try new things, and it's to have a lot of freedom to do new things every issue. But it's also I have a lot of respect for the single issues, and in the States at least they come out as single issues, and so I want always my single issues to feel like a full story. Even if it's something like 20th Century Men, which was one big story, I want every issue to have a beginning, middle, and end. Like I always use the example of premium television like The Sopranos or Mad Men, where there's a bigger narrative, but each story, each episode had its own set of themes, its own character arcs, its own beginning, middle, and end. And that's really important to me. And so Ultimates and Assorted Crisis Events are, Ultimates is a little bit more connected. Assorted Crisis Events is one, one topic, the crisis, but different stories each time. Martian Manhunter is one story, but each one still feels like a piece. There's the one issue that's about the heat and the sun, and there's the one issue that's about, the darkness and things like that. And so I like each thing to have its own, to feel like when you finish the issue, you feel like you got a full meal, you got a full story. You're not, it's not just one story sliced into 6 or 5.
And the idea for the crisis are coming all from you, or some are from Eric? And you told me before that all the I don't remember if it's number 4 or number 5, which is a loop.
Yeah.
It was your idea or Eric's idea to convey the message?
It was my idea to convey the message through loops, that every issue, every page would be a loop. But it's easy to say it's your idea to make them loops. Yeah. It's much more difficult to make them loops and make them readable. So that's Eric, So yes, I say, let's make every page a loop, Eric, and here's the different ways that we can do that, and here's some examples that I have. And so that's what I bring to it. But then sometimes I say, I don't know how to make this a loop. Make this a loop, Eric. And so he has to figure out how to make it a loop. I write it so that it's a loop, but I don't know always how to spatially lay it out. And so again, his idea, my idea, it's impossible to say. I couldn't do that book could not exist with anyone but Eric. Only Eric would be so crazy as to say, yeah, let's do it. And I knew that going in, that he would be interested to make this kind of comics. That's why we're making these kind of comics. We're old friends, so.
Okay. With Stepan, you are doing bleeding art.
Yeah.
In the past, you talked about maybe doing another story in the 20th Century Man universe, but now it's a completely different thing.
Yeah.
And I read the first 3 issues, and I feel like it's much more psychological for a zombie story than usual. Why use this approach in a genre that normally is very about social critique that you do in superhero comics?
Yeah.
Which is,
Well, I thought it would be interesting to do what we did with 20th Century Men, where we took the archetypes and the tropes and some of the themes of the genre, and then we did something kind of new with it. And the idea was making it a little bit more from real life and a little bit more, like you said, psychological or sociological. And so I just thought, okay, let's take the zombie metaphor and let's do something different with it. Okay, the zombies are, what's the zombie perspective? Now let's put that perspective against the human perspective, and what do we get something new from it? There have been stories that from the zombie perspective, there have been a lot of stories from the human perspective, but I think the interplay and the way that they interact is different, and can they, a lot of my work has to do with misunderstandings or an inability to communicate. Martian Manhunter has a lot of that, and Bleeding Hearts is that as well. So it's taking some of those ideas and those archetypes and that people are familiar with, and doing something new with them, I think is powerful, and I really enjoy doing it. And Stepan loves to do it too. So.
Oh, okay. Another theme we found in your work is the theme of showing your true self or put on a mask in front of the public. I mean, it's kind of obvious doing with superheroes, but why is still okay to? It's still interesting doing in a superhero work this theme that seems like so played.
Yeah, well, I think the key is always, sometimes the issue with superhero stuff is that it goes down too far down its own rabbit hole, in the sense that it becomes not related to life. But this theme of masks that we wear, the things that we put on for other people, is so deeply human and universal. I mean, everyone I know has a mask. When you're working right now, it's different from when you're with your wife, with your wife or with your mother, or if you're autistic. I have friends that are autistic, and they talk about masking a lot, where when they go out, they have to wear a different personality to make people more comfortable, and how exhausting that can be. And so it's just a deeply human thing, I think, that we're kind of always performing for each other, and sometimes the mask slips, and that's really powerful. So I think it can be used, you can use it in a lot of different contexts, as long as you try to say something new with it always, but it's deeply, they've been talking about this since the Roman times so it's.
Okay, let's do a classic question for us, which is not really original, but which are the 4 comics of your life that changed your life, your favorite?
Oof. Okay, great. Jack Kirby's New Gods, you already mentioned that. That was a big one for me. It really showed, I love the scale of it. It's a big opera and gorgeous and filled with ideas, brimming with ideas, and that meant a lot to me. Grant Morrison and Howard Porter's Justice League was important to me. That's what really also made me a fan. It's not my favorite Grant Morrison work, but it's the first one that I was exposed to, and it was the gateway to all my favorite Grant Morrison. I mean, I love everything Grant Morrison did, so hugely important. What else? Watchmen was a super important one, of course. I love everything Alan Moore does. Again, it's not my favorite Alan Moore work, but it's the one that showed me what was possible formally with comics, what you could do with comics, with grids and playing all those things that I do now in Assorted Crisis Events. It's almost like a manual for that. And then I would say probably Astra's Polyp, which from Mazzucchelli, which again just shows you another version of what's possible with the medium, and how you can tell a story in all these different ways, and using the language of comics, or expanding even the language of comics, to make you feel things differently. And that's something I try to do in a lot of my work, which is how can we use this medium, what we have here, to make you feel what I want you to feel, whether it's holding the page up to the light, or like you said, the mirrored things or the circular layouts. You can only do that with the medium, and I think it's not enough. You have to. I want to tell deeply human stories, but if you can tell human stories and use the medium to make the reader feel what those characters are feeling more, you've really done something. I think a little bit special. So yeah.
Okay. One last stupid question.
Yeah.
Is it true that in Ultimate Endgame we're gonna know how Robert Downey Jr. was chosen?
You have to wait and see. But just wait for you have to wait for the movie to come out, and then it will all make sense. It will all click into place.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Huh?